Let's talk more now about the police force that is going to give money seized from criminals to schools in order to encourage them and help them to lock up children's mobile phones. How will it work and why is it happening? It's being done in the area run by Thames Valley Policing. The Commissioner, Police and Crime Commissioner, of which Matthew Barber joins me now. Matthew, good to have you on the programme. Tell us more, if you would, in your own words, about this plan and why you think it's so important.
Yeah, so the most important thing is to recognise this is money taken from criminals. This is not taxpayers' money, and we explicitly can't use it to go back into policing. So we have a grant scheme which we run throughout the year, which provides all sorts of grants to community groups across Thames Valley. What we've done here, we've got just over £250,000 focused specifically on schools to help them put in place the infrastructure needed to get phones out of classrooms. And we know that almost all schools these days will say that they are phone free, but 60% of schools in Thames Valley that we surveyed, their policy is simply to not have the phone out sort of on the desk, keep it in your bag. And the reality is that means that children are sneaking a look at their phone, lessons being disrupted by notifications. It causes conflict with teachers having to confiscate those phones. What we've seen in schools that have implemented a proper phone free policy, putting them in a lockbox, putting them in a pouch, is a dramatic increase in improvements in terms of behaviour, better discipline in the classrooms, better academic outcomes, and that actually has an impact for the wider community, because better behaviour in school leads to reduced antisocial behaviour more broadly.
It's not just about getting them to focus more in maths or geography, Matthew. This is explicitly linked to preventing some of that poor behaviour spreading into criminality, is it?
Absolutely. Right. What we've seen in a number of schools is children making excuse to go out for toilet breaks, for example, but actually what they're doing is getting together in the toilets to watch YouTube videos or whatever. They're organising fights using Snapchat during the day because someone's annoyed them in one lesson, so they're taking pictures of each other in the class and arranging to go and beat someone at lunchtime. It just removes all of those particular problems. Now, of course, it doesn't solve every childhood issue that you're going to happen. We've always seen bullying in our schools, and this is not about removing phones from people's lives. They can still use their phone to get to school. There might be a bus pass or something they need. They can let their parents are going to be home late. But for that period of time when a child is at school, I think most of us expect that child to be learning, that they can actually focus on their education.
But if that's the case, and I'm not disputing it for a minute, Matthew, why isn't it on the schools to fund this and enforce it rather than you as police to have to cough up the cash?
So I think increasingly this will be, but as I say, this is not actually coming out of any police budgets. This is taking money from criminals. This is why this is not important. It's not taxpayers' money. Schools are increasingly being asked to do this, but we know how tight those school budgets are, and there are lots of head teachers that I've spoken to that want to implement plans like this. We're not talking about vast sums of money. It might just be £10,000 per school, but actually that can be a big barrier to schools implementing those changes. So actually, what we can do through these grants is a relatively small sum of money. We're talking about £11 per pupil. It's not going to reach every school in Thames Valley that doesn't currently have this, but it's taking money that would otherwise be enjoyed by criminals. This is money that's seized by the courts through forfeitures. This is the sale of stolen goods that have been seized, and making sure that that goes back into improving people's educations and improving behaviour, and therefore tackling things like antisocial behaviour.
I've got to say, when I looked at this first, I thought, really good idea, but wouldn't that money be better spent employing another 5 police officers or so? Are you saying you're not able to reinvest it in your own force?
Absolutely. So there's some quite archaic rules around the money that's seized in these circumstances. This isn't what's often described as proceeds of crime. This is quite archaic legislation, which means it has to be used for charitable purposes. And of course, education is a good, legitimate charitable purpose. So obviously, if we could redirect this money into policing, that would absolutely be the right thing to do. But what we do normally with these funds is use it to support community groups who might be looking to install some CCTV at sort of village hall that's had some vandalism, or a group that's working with people coming out of prison to stop them from reoffending. This is one of the big schemes that we put in place, recognising that there's a real benefit here to young people in society who might be victims of crime through the use of mobile phones, through the exploitation that we see some people being victims of, but it has a wider benefit as well.
Thank you for coming on. Matthew Barber, Police and Crime Commissioner for the Thames Valley, who's announced that initiative today. It sounds like those rules need a look at. need being looked at. In the meantime, it's a pretty good idea, isn't it? Pretty good use of spending that cash. What do you think?